So I'm going to show you guys how I handle worming a horse. This is something that a lot of people struggle with, and there's a couple steps that I kind of go through. So some of the first steps that I go through are, can I get my horse to yield their head, right? So like right here, he wants to brace a little bit, right? So I want to be able to get him to drop his head down as much as I want. Can he handle me putting his head where I want it? Then the next step that I kind of test is, can he handle me touching him on the muzzle, right? So he's a little worried about that. I just am going to kind of stay until he kind of softens into my hand, right? There he kind of wants to avoid and go away. Now the next thing is I'm going to see that I can put my finger in the side of his mouth, right? Now if he were to try to rip away from me, I'm going to stay with him, right? Like right here, I'm not going to let the pressure go away. I'm going to stay until we're right back here in the center, and he lets me have my finger right there, and he softens to my hand. So if he had his head ripping away from me, I'm going to hold the pressure until he finds this center spot where we're not pulling on each other. So like he wants to kind of right now kind of go down to get away, and I'm just kind of popping him up and saying, no, the place that I want you to be is right here centered. Notice I'm not trying to trap him, right? The more I get in a trapping place, the more that the horse is not going to actually want to stay. The more they're going to be convinced, what are you going to do to me? This is stressful and overwhelming. So once I have those basic steps, I might start sticking my finger in while I have the wormer here in my hand. So for some horses, it's just seeing the wormer that causes an issue, right? Like right here, he kind of wants to lean away. Notice as soon as he's with me, I don't have pressure on my hand. I'm not forcing him to stay. I'm setting it up where I'm going, hey, as long as you're with me, pressure is real nice and easy, and I'm not forcing you to stay here. Now, once I get here, then I'm going to go ahead and just gently ask him, do my best to not let him spit out all of his wormer, right? So I go ahead and ask him to be in the same place that I did as I touched his muzzle, as I stuck my finger in his mouth. Say I started squirting the wormer and he wanted to go up. I'm going to stay with his mouth until he's back down here at center. Now, I probably, with a lot of my horses that have issues, I come back to putting the wormer in their mouth even once I've wormed them, just to double check that they're not being rude. Now, some of the mistakes that people make, right, is that they jab them with the wormer. They just kind of get a little rough, and then the horse, for a reason, doesn't actually want to be wormed. Now this applies obviously to any other oral medication. The same kind of basic principle actually applies to other things. Like if I wanted to give an injection, same kind of concept, right? Get them used to tolerating kind of me touching them and being okay. And if they're trying to leave, bring them back, have them be in center. The biggest thing is not trying to force them to stay. Keeping it so that they can move if they need to move, right? Like as soon as I start holding here, I'm going to convince him that he wants to get away from me. I go ahead and give him slack and let him make the mistake of wanting to leave, and then, oh, this is where we're supposed to be. Just that, a lot of times, can actually be the solution to the problem about why your horse doesn't like medication as a whole, because they just feel like I'm about to be in trouble because everything has pressure involved with it. So that's how I set one up to worm them.